Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. We're meeting today for the purpose of Capital Budget Subcommittee budget hearings. I'm just going to go through the order just to make sure everyone knows where they're at. So we're going to have, first we're going to take the military department, Maryland School for the Deaf, Judiciary, Maryland Department of Health, Maryland Department of Natural Resources, Department of Juvenile Services, Maryland Independent Colleges and Universities, and then Department of Housing and Community Development. So with that, let's start off with Ms. Rai. We're going to do military department first. Thank you, Ms. Rai.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. I am Yashodhara Rai, and I'll be presenting the fiscal 27 capital budget analysis for the military department. Cover charts on pages 1 and 2 show that the 5-year CIP includes 7 projects. Only the new Hagerstown Vehicle Maintenance Shop, VMS, receives funding in fiscal 27. Key observations begin at the bottom of page 2 and highlights that the Part 1 and 2 facility program for the new Joint Force Headquarters at Camp Frettard is estimated to be completed by September 2026. No additional design funding is planned for this project until fiscal 2030. The other key observation at the top of page 3 notes that fiscal 27 capital funding for 4 projects have been deferred to fiscal 28. This is due to project delays. The fiscal 29 funding for 1 project has been deferred to fiscal 2030 to maintain a manageable capital project portfolio for the department. An update on the Annapolis Readiness Center appears at the top of page 4 and notes that Part 1 facility program for this project is complete. Moving on to the discussion on the new Hagerstown VMS capital project on page 4. This project receives $500,000 in GEO bonds and $3.25 million in federal funds through the congressionally directed spending in fiscal 27 to begin design of the project. This project is fully federally funded, and the $500,000 in GEO bonds will be reimbursed when the federal fund will be available for drawdown. Project design is scheduled to begin in October 2026, and construction is anticipated to begin in October 2031 and be completed by October of 2033. The 2026 CIP estimates the total project cost at $29 million, which is $7 million higher than last year's CIP. The department should comment on the reason for the increased project cost. The department notes that the federal funds are required to be encumbered by December 2026, and the department is required to reach 35% design by August of 2027. The department should comment on its timeline to begin solicitation for an initial design contract. The department also plans to renovate the existing VMS as part of the Hagerstown Readiness Center renovation project after the new VMS project is completed in fiscal 2033. However, the construction of the Hagerstown Readiness Center is estimated to begin in fiscal 2031. This is 2 years earlier than the completion of the VMS project. The department should clarify on the timing of the 2 projects. Beginning at the bottom of page 5 through page 7 are the 6 out-year projects. Fiscal 27 funding for 4 projects, namely the Glen Burnie, White Oak, Frederick, and Roll Readiness Center renovation projects, are deferred to fiscal 28 due to revised project schedule. This also includes deferring the pre-authorized GEO bonds of $2.68 million for the Frederick Readiness Center. Similarly, fiscal 29 funding for the Hagerstown Readiness Center renovation project is deferred to fiscal 2030. The new Joint Force Headquarters at Camp Frettard, which appears on page 7, received $750,000 in GEO bonds in prior authorization. As mentioned earlier, the Part 1 and 2 facility program for this project is estimated to be complete by September 2026. However, no further design funding is planned until fiscal 2030. DLS recommends deauthorizing the $750,000 in prior authorization to better align the funding with the project schedule. The bottom of page 7 provides an update on the military department's 3 properties being divested. The Catonsville Readiness Center at Baltimore County, which was previously identified to facilitate the construction of a cannabis incubator, is no longer considered a viable site for the incubator. The department notes that Baltimore County and the Department of General Services are developing a right of entry agreement for Baltimore County to conduct a facility assessment. The divestment of Cade Readiness Center is pending on the availability of another readiness center to transfer the unit currently occupying this readiness center. Exhibit 1 on page 9 shows the percentage of the state's major air and Army facilities in fully functional status between fiscal 21 and 25. The Maryland Air National Guard facilities consistently maintain 100% functionality, and the Maryland Army National Guard facility functionality remains at 28% in fiscal 25. DLS recommendations appear on page 3 and recommends concurring with the governor's allowance for PAYGO, and also recommends to deauthorize the $750,000 in GEO bonds for the new Joint Force Headquarters. This is the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for that great analysis. Any questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much. Let's call up the military department. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Honorable Chair, Vice Chair, distinguished members of the committee, my name is Brigadier General Andrew Collins, and I'm honored to present the capital budget testimony for the Maryland Military Department. With me today is Dr. Linda Weaver, who is our Chief Financial Officer, as well Mr. Mark Freedy, who's our Deputy Construction Officer. We want to thank our DLS analyst, Ms. Rye, and DBM analyst, Mr. Rader, for their continued support. Before highlighting our key projects, I want to underscore why these investments matter. Every Maryland National Guard Readiness Center serves as a power projection platform, not only to respond to emergencies here at home, but to mobilize soldiers and airmen for overseas missions. Since September 11th, the Army has transformed dramatically. The equipment our soldiers carry and the training they require demand modern, multi-purpose-built facilities. Many of our current readiness centers were not designed for today's force, and our capital program corrects that gap. Our top capital priority is the White Oak Readiness Center, which stands at 60% design. This project is on the Chief of Staff of the Army's unfunded priority list for FY27 construction funding. The Maryland Military Department will also pursue congressionally directed spending in parallel to ensure this project is fully funded. Our second capital priority is the Joint Force Headquarters at Camp Frederick. We received $750,000 in GEO bonds for FY26 and are developing the Part 1 and 2 facility program for submission by fall of 26. We concur with the DLS recommendation to deauthorize the $750,000 to align funding with the revised design schedule. Our department was asked to report on the Hagerstown Vehicle Maintenance Shop project regarding the $7 million increase in total project costs for the Hagerstown VMS project. The programmed amounts have been increased by an estimated $1.25 million for design and $6 million for construction as a result of preliminary project cost estimate reviews in collaboration with our great partners at DGS, indicating the square footage costs were too low. But I want to be clear, this project is 100% federally funded through a CDS earmark. Additionally, the Maryland Army National Guard has received notification from NGB of the approved CDS request. Once federal funding is received at the National Guard Bureau level and project documentation is validated, National Guard Bureau will issue a design authority memo. Maryland Military Department and National Guard Bureau will execute the master cooperative agreement, and funding will be released to the Maryland Army National Guard. This process is anticipated to be complete in May of 26. Once funding is received from National Guard Bureau, the Maryland Military Department will issue a fund certification to DGS for professional services, solicitation, and award, which must be obligated by December of 26. Regarding the two projects in Hagerstown, to be clear, the Hagerstown Readiness Center project and the Vehicle Maintenance Shop project are no longer interdependent due to conflicts in project scheduling. Both units that are currently stationed at that Readiness Center will be temporarily stationed to alternate locations during the construction. The Frederick Readiness Center anticipates a construction solicitation by fall of 26 with a completion in the winter or spring of 28. In closing, the Maryland Military Department concurs with our DLS analyst PAYGO recommended actions and the GEO bond recommended actions. MMD's unique federal state funding strategy depends on the continued active support of DBM and DGS to fully leverage every federal dollar available to Maryland. Thank you very much. Appreciate your consideration. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, sir. Any questions for this distinguished panel? Seeing none, thank you very much. Committee will
Thank
turn
you.
our attention to the Maryland School for the Deaf. Ms. Andrade, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. I am Natalie Andrade, here with the Department of Legislative Services to present the fiscal 27 capital allowance for the Maryland School for the Deaf. On page 1 of the analysis, you can see that the fiscal 27 capital request provides $1.6 million in general obligation bonds for the new student residences project at the Frederick campus. This amount is $8.4 million below the $10 million previously programmed for fiscal 27 due to a delayed construction schedule. While the fiscal 27 request is lower than anticipated, the total project cost has increased significantly. Turning to project updates, page 2 discusses the Bedits building renovation at the Frederick campus. The project has received a total up to $4.3 million from the Construction Contingency Fund to address unforeseen structural and building envelope deficiencies, and is 97% complete, with completion anticipated by the end of May 2026. The Columbia Campus Mass Notification System, originally funded in fiscal 2020 and 2022, has reached substantial completion, and the system is currently undergoing retesting to ensure proper operation. As described on pages 2 and 3, the new residences project will construct 4 new residential facilities, a flexible dormitory, a combined high school boys and girls residence with separate wings, a standalone health center, and a student center, and will demolish 3 obsolete dormitories. The existing dormitories are not ADA compliant, have outdated building systems, and lack configurations conducive to appropriate supervision and residential life. Construction is now scheduled to begin in fiscal 2027, and is estimated completion is July 2023. Turning to pages 3 and 4, you can see that the total estimated cost of the new student residences project is now $91.6 million. That is an increase of $23.8 million over the prior estimate of $67.8 million. The increase reflects higher base construction costs, expanded gross square footage, increased demolition and hazardous material abatement cost, higher HVAC cost, and additional expenses associated with phase construction on an occupied campus. The approved program modification increased the project size from 68,800 gross square feet to 72,237 gross square feet, and revised the configuration from 3 buildings to 4 separate facilities. With respect to enrollment, on page 5, Exhibit 1 shows that residential enrollment declined during COVID-19 period, but has since recovered to near pre-pandemic levels. Residential students represent 18% of total enrollment in fiscal 2025, and 72 residential students were enrolled as of January 2026. Although current residential enrollment remains below historical levels, when enrollment ranged from approximately 87 to 99 students between fiscal 2012 and 2016, the new facilities are designed to accommodate approximately 135 residential students, aligning more closely with prior residential levels and allowing for potential future growth. Finally, the Hessian Barracks renovation project on the Frederick campus is scheduled in the out years of the Capital Improvement Program. During the archaeological test excavations in January 2026, historic human skeletal remains were discovered. While consultations are ongoing, any potential impact on project costs are scheduled is not yet known. The Department of Legislative Services recommends approval of all general obligation bond authorizations and pre-authorization as proposed in the fiscal 27 capital budget. And with that, I conclude my presentation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Andrade. Any questions? Great. Thank you very much. Call up the Maryland School for the Deaf. Come on up. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good afternoon, Chair Senator Zucker and Vice Chair McRae and subcommittee members. Great to see you here. My name is John A. Serrano. I'm the superintendent of the Maryland School for the Deaf and also agency head. Joining me here today is Brian Halloran, our Chief Financial Officer / Chief Operating Officer. First of all, I'd like to give my thanks to our budget analyst, Natalie Andrade. Thank you so much for the work that you've done partnering with us on this analysis. At MSD, we are committed to maintaining and renovating our facilities across both of our campuses to ensure that we can teach our deaf and hard of hearing students in environments that facilitate learning and growth. We have been thrilled to make progress with the schematic design of the Frederick Campus Residential Dorm Project, and so we're thrilled to see what the next stage may bring. Again, we always appreciate the state's continued support and partnership with the Department of Budget Management, as well as the Department of Legislative Services and General Services. MSD does concur with our analyst findings and recommendations. Myself and Brian are happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Colleagues, we'll now turn our attention to the judiciary. Scott Benson, please come on up and appreciate your time.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is Scott Benson, and today I'll be presenting the capital analysis for the judiciary. As you can see in the cover chart on page 1, the judiciary's 5-year capital improvement program, or CIP, includes 4 projects: the new Supreme Court of Maryland building, the new Harford County District Court, the Washington County District Court renovation and expansion, and the new Anne Arundel County District Court. The fiscal 2027 capital budget includes $20.3 million for the new Supreme Court of Maryland building, while the remaining projects are out-year projects and do not have funding in fiscal 2027. There's a key observation on page 2. The new Supreme Court of Maryland building faced an 8-month deferral to the start of construction due to a delay in the procurement of the construction services contract. Groundbreaking for this project officially occurred on February 26. Turning to the summary of fiscal 2027 funded state-owned projects, you can see that the total expected cost of the new Supreme Court of Maryland building is $171.7 million in general obligation bonds. In December 2025, the Board of Public Works, or BPW, approved the $147 million low bid construction contract. The cost estimate provided in support of the 2025 session review of the project set the construction phase cost at $191 million. But the revised estimate based on the construction contract approved by BPW lowers this to $158 million. In addition to the $20.3 million included for fiscal 2027, the capital budget bill also pre-authorizes $52.7 million for fiscal 2028 and $26.3 million in fiscal 2029. With the project officially beginning construction, it is expected to take 36 months, with substantial completion set for January 2029. The equipment funds provided for the new facility are for built-in equipment, while the remaining furniture and equipment needs are to be funded through the judiciary's operating budget and are expected to be $10.5 million in general funds. Turning to the summary of out-year state-owned projects beginning on page 4, the new Harford County District Court project includes the construction of a new facility with on-site parking, access roads, and site improvements in Bel Air for the District Court for Harford County. Currently, 3 parcels of land have been purchased for the project by the Department of General Services, or DGS. However, the 4th parcel of land for the project has not yet been purchased and has resulted in significant delays for the project. DGS has encountered issues negotiating with the landowner of the 4th parcel, as the offers to purchase the property by the state have not been enough to compensate the owner for the revenue generated from the property. An updated appraisal was requested by DGS to provide an updated offer in September 2025. However, no updated offer was accepted, and the judiciary reported that the land was sold to another owner in late calendar 2025, requiring DGS to begin negotiations with a new party. As of June 2025, the design stage was scheduled to begin in fiscal 2028. However, this has been delayed to an undisclosed time in fiscal 2029, according to the fiscal 2027 CIP. The judiciary should discuss the current timeline for negotiations and the previous offers made to the landowners and alternative project plans if the fourth parcel cannot be purchased. The next project, the Washington County District Court renovation expansion, involves the renovation of the current courthouse in Hagerstown and the construction of additional space for a third judge. On November 5, 2025, BPW approved a construction contract for $11.5 million, lowering the total estimated construction cost to $12.2 million. The judiciary has reported that the project design is 80% completed, with this phase set to end in April 2026. The judiciary believes it is likely that the fiscal 2028 authorization will include an additional $2.5 million in addition to the $739,000 pre-authorized in the fiscal 2027 capital budget bill and the additional $100,000 expected for equipment. This is due to issues discovered with the current generators, and the replacement is expected to raise the project total to approximately $15.3 million. The judiciary should comment on the need to replace the current generators for the facility and the impact it will have on the project's timeline. And the final project is the new Anne Arundel County District Court, which is set to replace the existing facility in Glen Burnie. Although initially scheduled to request funds in fiscal 2027, DGS has decided to delay the project and to begin the site search in late calendar 2026, with the intention of purchasing the required properties in July 2027. Despite the agency's intention to have the project's land purchased by July 2027, the design stage is not scheduled to begin until July 2030, as funding for the project's planning is not expected to be authorized until fiscal 2031. The fiscal 2027 CIP estimates that the project's total cost to be $142.1 million, compared to the $119 million estimated in fiscal 2025. The judiciary should comment on the reasons for the project's delay and the increase in the estimated total cost of the project. The recommended action is on page 2, and the Department of Legislative Services recommends approving all general obligation bond authorizations, amendments to prior authorizations, and pre-authorizations. And that concludes my presentation. I can now take your questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that analysis. Any questions for Ms. Benson? Okay, thank you very much. Call up the judiciary. Good to see you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee. I'm Chief Justice Matthew Fader of the Supreme Court of Maryland, and with me is Chief Judge John Morrissey from the District Court of Maryland. First, begin by thanking Mr. Benson for his thoughtful and thorough work on the judiciary's operating and capital budgets. Thank you very much. We don't have a new project to discuss. I'm here primarily to express thanks for the support of the subcommittee on the capital project that got underway with a groundbreaking last week. It is an exciting project for the new building to house both of the appellate courts of Maryland and the Thurgood Marshall State Law Library. We very much appreciate that support. And I'll turn it over to Chief Judge Morrissey.
Good afternoon, Chair Zucker and members of the committee. For the record, my name is John Morrissey, and I'm the Chief Judge of the District Court. This is the first and perhaps only time I'm not asking for any money in this year's fiscal budget. I did want to respond to the very good questions that Mr. Benson raised. As to the new Harford County District Court, DGS, the Department of Governmental Services, handles all negotiations on behalf of the district court, and I'm informed that the negotiations are ongoing for the fourth parcel. We already have 3 of the 4 parcels. They were originally, the offers were submitted in 24 and 25 based on the original appraisals. Those were all within the limits of already existing available capital funding. In fall of 2025, DGS updated the appraisals and evaluated both the fee simple and the leasehold interest separately. There's a lease in a long-term lease on the property. This increased the appraisal value, but it still was within the amount of the capital outlay already appropriated. As they prepare to issue this update in December of 2025, a change in ownership caused a delay. There's now a plan to submit an updated offer for both the fee simple and leasehold interest in the next month. As to the second question, the alternative option would require constructing a taller, narrower courthouse if we were unable to obtain the fourth parcel. I'm still hopeful that we'll obtain the fourth parcel. That would be optimal, but we'll prepare a new fiscal analysis to DGS and the court not be successful. With respect to Washington County, we're excited to have a groundbreaking later this month with respect to the long-awaited third courtroom in that courthouse. My administrative judge in the district reminds me that they built a minor league baseball stadium in a quicker period of time than I've been able to build a third courtroom, but it is well underway. As we proceeded with the design, there's a new generators that will be needed to handle the increased electrical demand caused by the third courtroom. There's some new HVAC work going on too. What will result is not only a third courtroom, but a really updated new courthouse that will extend the lifespan of that courthouse for a considerable period of time. So we're real excited to get that underway. Contemporaneously, we've made a request for a third judgeship in Washington County. That's at a need for a third judgeship for over a decade right now. Finally, on the new Anne Arundel County Courthouse to replace the district court in Glen Burnie, we've not yet completed the land acquisition process for this project. At the recommendation of DGS, the land acquisition funding has been increased to address the delays that we've encountered. As to the second question about the increase to the total cost, the projected gross square footage of the new Anne Arundel County District Courthouse is increased by approximately 7,500 square feet. This change reflects adjustments made to the Part 1 program, including a modest increase in space for juvenile services, our allied services, and additional secured parking. Because the cost estimate worksheet is directly driven by square footage, any adjustment to the building size results in a proportional change in overall costs. I'm also informed that DGS applies an annual construction market escalation rate to account for inflation. These adjustments reflect normal refinement as the project scope becomes better defined and as market conditions evolve over the year. We hope to put an RFP out for the land acquisition by the end of this year. And I'd be happy to, I'd like to thank all of you for your prior funding. The Baltimore City Mabel House Hubbard Courthouse opened in October. It's a beautiful facility. If any of you would ever like to get down there and have a tour, I'd be happy to show you around. It's really state of the art. So thank you all for that.
Thank you very much. Any questions for this distinguished panel? Senator Jennings.
Just a quick question on that Harker County. The fourth parcel, you said it changed ownership. Was that an internal change, like through family members, or was it put back on the market and we just didn't get the owner?
I believe it was tax sale. I believe it was a tax sale that changed ownership of the property. It was not put back up on the market. I know that.
So, okay.
Senator Corderman.
Thank you. Thank you guys for being here, and I appreciate the update. And to your comment earlier, yes, we did build a ballpark quicker. At the same time, I think the commission knows it's not because of what anything you guys have done. I've appreciated your involvement over the years. We've met multiple times this, and I'm excited and appreciate all your work and commitment you have made to actually see a shovel on the ground, it sounds like, here in the next month or so. And so appreciate it, Your Honor, for everything you've done to help move that project along. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Corderman.
Any other questions or comments? We appreciate you guys. Thanks for your service.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you all.
Of course. Committee will now turn our attention to the Department of Health. Ms. Kimura.
Good afternoon. My name is Naomi Camaro. I'll be presenting the fiscal 27 capital budget for the Maryland Department of Health. The fiscal 27 budget includes $12.5 million for two projects in the Department of Health: the renovation of the north wing of the Clifton T. Perkins Hospital Center, as well as the demolition of a few different decommissioned buildings. There's also $13.5 million in the fiscal 27 request for the two capital grant programs in the Department of Health. So first, starting on page 3, the first state-owned project is the demolished decommissioned buildings. So MDH has identified two different parts of this project. There's 2 dormitories at Perkins and 1 dormitory at the RICA Baltimore campus, deemed for demolition because it's unfit to, but each of these buildings are unfit for renovation. The fiscal 27 request includes $103,000 for planning of the demolition of the dormitory at the RICA building. The Perkins demolition has been delayed, and construction is slated to begin in August. The second project is the renovation of the Clifton T. Perkins North Wing. This is to expand capacity for maximum security patients at Perkins. This project was paused in fiscal 2026 due to the replacement of the HVAC system that failed a couple years ago. That is estimated to be completed by August 2026. The fiscal 27 request includes $12.4 million for this project, mostly for construction. And construction is scheduled to begin in September of 2026 after the HVAC system is replaced. Because this facility is in use, MDH said that it will need to relocate up to 40 patients that are currently at Perkins, 22 of which will be relocated to Springfield following a renovation of the facility. And MDH said they will move the remaining patients to other MDH hospital facilities. DLS has asked MDH to clarify when the renovations at Springfield will be completed and if there's any funding in the state budget for that expansion. And we've also asked MDH to specify which other facilities will be used to temporarily house the Perkins patients that need to move from the North Wing. The next part of the analysis summarizes the Facility for Children program, which is delayed in fiscal 27 because the demolition of the dormitory at RICA needs to be completed before the FFC can be built on the RICA Baltimore campus. And then the rest of the analysis, beginning on page 7, summarizes the grant programs in the Department of Health. First, the Community Health Facilities Grant Program includes $10 million in fiscal 27 for 11 projects that are summarized on pages 8 through 10 of the analysis. And then second is the Federally Qualified Health Centers Grant Program. The fiscal 27 request includes $3.5 million for 5 projects in this program, which are listed on pages 11 and 12. DLS recommends approving all GO bond authorizations and pre-authorizations for the Department of Health. That concludes my presentation. I can take any questions.
Well, thank you very much for that analysis. You always do a great job. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Call up the Department of Health. Come on up.
Good afternoon, Chair Zucker, Vice Chair McCray, and members of the subcommittee. For the record, my name is Clint Hackett, and I am the Deputy Secretary with responsibility for operations at the Maryland Department of Health. Joining me today is Will Andalora, who is the Director of the Department's Office of Facilities Management and Development. We are both representing Secretary Seshamani, who is unfortunately unable to be here today. The Maryland Department of Health would like to thank the Governor, the Department of Budget and Management, the Department of General Services, and the Department of Legislative Services for all of their support. We would also like to thank Naomi Kumuro for her in-depth and very thoughtful analysis. In the DLS analysis, MDH was asked to respond to a couple of items. Firstly, MDH was asked to clarify what month and year the renovations to Springfield Hospital Center's Muncie Building and the Hitchman Building Unit C would be completed, as well as if there is funding in the state budget for the expansion. We were also asked to specify which other facilities will be utilized to temporarily house patients from the Clifton T. Perkins Hospital Center during the North Wing renovation, given that each facility operates at capacity. Our response is as follows. MDH has developed a plan and identified $1 million of the fiscal year 2026 operating funds to expand beds at the Springfield Hospital Center through renovation of Unit C in the Hitchman Building. In addition, MDH has established a goal of completing the renovation by the end of calendar year 2026. MDH has also developed a plan and identified $2 million of the fiscal year 2026 operating funds to renovate the Springfield Hospital Center's Muncie building. This project will renovate the interior of the Muncie building for licensure as an assisted living program and support the movement of patients in the assisted living program from the Springfield Hospital Center's McKellen building. When the assisted living program is relocated, MDH will repurpose the space within the McKellen building to create an additional inpatient psychiatric care unit, which will then allow some patients who are currently in Clifton T. Perkins Hospital to be moved to the Springfield Hospital Center, which will allow for the Perkins North Wing renovation project to commence. This project is scheduled for completion by May 2027 to align with the schedule of the North Wing renovation project. The combined projects will result in the potential increase of more than 40 inpatient psychiatric beds. Both projects are currently in progress and are scheduled for completion in advance of the projected timeline for patient relocation from Perkins. In closing, it is with immense gratitude that I thank the subcommittee for your prior approvals, for your time and consideration today. We are happy to take questions at this time.
Any questions for the agency? Okay. Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have one public witness, Carrie Etheridge. You're here. Carrie Etheridge, okay. We'll now turn our attention to the Department of Natural Resources. Andrew Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll now present the Department of Natural Resources Fiscal 2027 Capital Budget Analysis. On page 1, you see there's $159.2 million in the request for fiscal 2027. In terms of the PAYGO recommended actions, on page 3, DLS is recommending a Baltimore City direct grant spending spreadsheet be provided twice in calendar year 2026. This was provided last year and is very helpful for understanding more about the overall projects that are going on there. GO bond recommended actions are on page 4 to approve all authorizations, pre-authorizations, and deauthorizations for the department. The deauthorization is for projects in the fiscal 23 capital budget, as shown on page 4. And the Rocky Gap State Park Campground Improvements Project in Allegheny County is being pre-authorized for $1.4 million in fiscal 2028. Exhibit 1 on page 5 reflects the funding breakdown. So there's $69 million in PAYGO special funds, $6 million in PAYGO federal funds, and $84.1 million in general obligation bonds. You're seeing so much bond funding here as part of the governor's overall budget balancing plan. So transfer tax revenues have gone up. Therefore, some of that funding can be used for the general funds purposes, and then the programs backfilled with general obligation bonds. On page 7, Exhibit 2 reflects the revenues for the transfer tax. The revenues are up, which is very helpful for the programs and also for helping to balance the state budget too. Exhibit 3 on page 8 reflects information about the changes between the 2 years for the transfer tax allocation programs. It's about $85 million difference between the 2 years. And then Exhibit 4 on page 9 reflects the changes for all of the programs. And you're not seeing a couple of programs here because they don't have any changes in the budget. That's the program Open Space Green Space Equity Program, Ocean City Beach Maintenance, and Capital or Community Parks and Playgrounds, excuse me. And once again, that GO bond funding you see on the bottom line for those programs, that increase is due to the fact for budget balancing purposes. Exhibit 5 on page 10 reflects the capital program funding that is replaced by GO bonds. It's $85 million is special funds reduced, $85 million replaced. There is an error in that graph under the difference for special funds for the program Open Space local program. That should actually be 0.2 million or $200,000. Exhibit 6 on page 11 reflects the transfers to the general fund. So the BRFA of 2025, Budget Reconciliation Financing Act, did redirect $25 million for fiscal 2026 to 2029 to the general fund. Transfer $25 million reflected for 26 and 27 in that Exhibit 6, and you're seeing an increase in the amount of funding that's being transferred from program Open Space local, or state, excuse me, because there's additional revenues coming in for the transfer tax, that means that more money could actually go to state land acquisition, which means that that money can now be transferred. Last year, there wasn't enough money to allocate to state land acquisition. Therefore, it didn't contribute to that transfer. So you're seeing a $7 million increase for POS state, and then reductions for the other two programs for that whole $25 million reduction. Transfer. Page 12, Budget Reconciliation and Financing Act of 2026 provisions. Program open space revenues redirected to the general fund replaced with GO bonds, $71.7 million. And there's also $188,844 for program open space local funds that are actually in the fund. They'll be transferred to the general fund and will be replaced with general obligation bonds as well. The Heritage Conservation Fund is being required, among other funds, to be included in the Program Open Space State Land Acquisition Balance. The reason here is because the Program Open Space State Land Acquisition Balance is used now to help balance Maryland Park Service's operations when there is insufficient revenue for that purpose. Therefore, a larger balance means that there's more money available to keep them above the $80 million threshold that they have to maintain in order to be able to transfer any money for the operating purposes. The bottom of the page there is repurposing of funds for the state land program open space. It's $980,000 for a project that didn't go forward, and that's going to be used for program open space state land acquisition purposes instead. And then on page 13 is the Waterway Improvement Fund revenue transfer to the general fund, which authorizes the governor a $13.1 million transfer on or before June 30, 2027. The program open space local allocations is Appendix 2 of this analysis. I'm going to jump quickly to page 21 for the Ocean City Beach Maintenance Project. So what you're seeing, $2 million per year, which is standard. What happened, though, is that there was supposed to be an $18 million beach replenishment project that was supposed to occur last winter, but was actually scheduled for this winter, 2025-26. But it's not going forward because there wasn't money in the federal government's budget, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Now that money is in the budget, $20 million, but the overall project cost has increased to $43 million due to some constraints. Only two vendors, apparently, in the beach replenishment business on the East Coast. So apparently a business opportunity there for anybody who's interested. So that funding will not be able to cover the entirety of the costs for the replenishment, and therefore they're going to have to do some rescoping of that particular project. On page 24, I'd like to highlight some information about the Waterway Improvement Fund. So the Waterway Improvement Fund program had $24 million authorized for special funds in fiscal 2026. The agency has noted that they're interested in actually reducing that $24 million appropriation to $20 million, and that would provide for some relief in the operating budget. However, there hasn't been a budget amendment to formally show that, and therefore just kind of internal documents. DLS recommends that DNR comment on why it plans to do that reduction, when this information will be conveyed, and what impact it'll have on projects. And then the oyster restoration program's on page 27. There's a comment. There's $1 million in here for the Eastern Bay project. DLS notes that the legislation kind of allocating that $1 million is actually supposed to only go through fiscal 2026, and then there's supposed to be an evaluation of some kind to see how the project is going forward. The administration notes that they're not going to actually do that evaluation until fiscal 2028, and they're providing $1 million in this year anyway. DLS recommends that DNR comment on the timing of the completion of that oyster replenishment, restoration, and aquaculture activities study, given the funding commitments beyond fiscal 26 are meant to be contingent on that evaluation. Issue 1 on page 28 concerns engineering and construction project completion. So we'll jump to page 29. Exhibit 8 reflects a significant increase in the number of critical maintenance capital projects on DNR state land. So those are the projects that are fixing things. And those project numbers have skyrocketed, particularly in fiscal 24, due to pent-up need and demand that was sort of released during the Great Maryland Outdoors Act conversation. So that really kind of opened the floodgates. A lot of people came out and said, hey, we have projects that we have kind of probably held back for years. So that significantly increased the number of projects and then reduced their percentage in terms of completing the projects and for critical maintenance purposes. Moving now to page 31, Exhibit 9 reflects the two main funds that were created by the Great Maryland Outdoors Act and how much funding has been spent from them. I will highlight that first line, the Park System Critical Maintenance Fund needs to spend $70 million by fiscal 2029 and to spend $12.7 million through February 18th of 2026. So it's increasing in terms of the spending, but there's certainly a lot more that needs to be done before that goal is met. And then on the very bottom of page 31 and 32, DLS has some comments about the Great Maryland Outdoors Act and some of the things that were required from it. DNR should comment on the likelihood of reaching the $70 million spending goal for the Park System Critical Maintenance Fund by that deadline, and also comment on the status of the next steps for completing the capital components of the Great Maryland Outdoors Act and on what deadlines the General Assembly may hold DNR to account. The bottom of page 32 is the Baltimore City Direct Grant spreadsheet comments. Very helpful in terms of getting that spreadsheet. We recommend that committee narrative be included in this year's Joint Chairman's report. Unless there are any questions, that concludes the presentation.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Gray? Seeing none, Secretary Kurtz, Chief Lukey, come on up.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the subcommittee. For the record, Josh Kurtz, Secretary of the Department of Natural Resources. I'm joined by Mr. Ludke, who is the chief of our capital programs. And I want to thank Mr.
Senator McCrae's like, what, chief? I'm like, yeah, he's the chief of capital.
I love it, yeah. Yeah. Mr. Gray, thank you so much for the analysis. Couple brief remarks from us. I think, when you look at our capital budget, really this is a breakdown of what we're providing to citizens all across the state of Maryland. And it really breaks out into two buckets, which is how our agency is organized, lands and waters. And one of the reasons that I think we've seen, and you see in the analysis, a significant uptake in our ability to spend these capital funds is because of a lot of the investment we've made, one, developing the chief of capital projects position, as well as revamping our procurement process and centralizing procurement within our agency. So we've been able to move a lot quicker in terms of how we spend those dollars. And I think that's seen throughout this analysis. But I wanted to touch on a couple really key projects. One in the aquatic space. Two of our most popular things are our trout stocking program and the Albert Powell Fish Hatchery is scheduled to come online. We're beginning that project now. That will increase our trout stocking program by 37%. And the next is a new mussel hatchery in Cedarville. And this is going to be partially funded through the Conowingo Dam Settlement Agreement. Oyster funding, which I'll touch on in more detail later, the commitment here is really to supporting the Eastern Bay Region restoration, which is a project that puts together the public fishery restoration, aquaculture, and conservation. So we're really excited about that project being funded. You touched on the Great Maryland Outdoors Act. The two pieces that I think are really critical here, when we look at those two funds, the Park System Capital Improvements Acquisition Fund and the Park Service Critical Maintenance Fund is really the pace at which we're spending. For the PSCIA, we are doubling that from FY25 into FY26, where we were at 5.8 million last year. We're at 6.17 already this year and on pace to double. And with the critical maintenance fund, last year we spent 4.41 million. This year we're already at 8.3, and we should be over 12 by the end of the year. So I've really picked up the pace there. In response to some of the questions and issues in the analysis, we concur and are happy to continue to submit those Baltimore City direct grant funding reports at the dates that were specified by the analyst, and we concur with the GO bond authorizations. On the Waterway Improvement Fund, we were able to spend $24 million this year, but what we saw was really a continuous steep decline in terms of the revenue coming into the Waterway Improvement Fund, which comes in through boat sales. We saw that peak significantly during COVID, and that has really tapered off. And so during the year, we evaluated all of the projects that came in. We were able to fund projects in every county that requested them, but we did pull back $4 million with the plan to roll that over into this coming budget year to be able to continue to support projects as they came in. And we actually took some of the state projects off the list past year where we were able to identify other fund sources. As it pertains to Eastern Bay, the reason that we're continuing to fund that is because that analysis has to be done after 5 years of planting. And since we have not completed those 5 years of planting, we need to complete that before we can then do that analysis that Mr. Gray touched on. That allows us to have an apples to apples comparison with the other sanctuaries that were restored. And then in terms of Great Maryland Outdoors Act, I touched on earlier the pace at which we are now expending those funds. We are confident that we will meet the 2029 deadline for the expenditures of both the critical, the PSCIA, the acquisitions fund, as well as the critical maintenance fund. And the point I think is really important here on that graph where you see the spike in our critical maintenance requests. That's because we now have a process for having that actually being applied to by our Park Service leadership. Before, that was a bit of a disparate process. We're centralizing that to ensure that we're doing better capital planning into the out years as it pertains to our critical maintenance, ensuring we're providing a world-class experience for park goers. I'd be happy to take any questions and really appreciate the time.
Any questions for Senator Heddleman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a question, and on the community parks and playgrounds, and I'm embarrassed that I don't know the answer to this, but I see that it is only available in municipalities in Baltimore City. I come from a county that doesn't have municipalities. So we are totally closed out of this program. Am I understanding that correctly?
So the program open space local funds can be used for similar things, but the Parks and Playground Fund is designed to go to small parks and municipalities.
Okay. I'd like to talk about that offline.
Absolutely happy to do so.
Okay, thanks.
This could be for whoever wants to answer it. What's the status of the Clopper Dam project? And I think I understand that there might have been new fees passed by the Maryland Department of Environment, and has that had any impact on the project?
So I'll let Mr. Lukey touch on the project itself, but in terms of the dam fees, our understanding is we're subject to that just like a private dam owner, the percentage and then the flat fee as well. And so we're working to incorporate that into any capital outlays that we'll have for our dams in the coming years. But in terms of Clopper, I'd turn that over to.
And then before you, to fix that, is it require legislation?
I believe the percentage is set in statute.
Okay. That's right, Chief Lee.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we were very excited to get BPW approval in October for the design contract for the Clopper Lake Dam renovations. This is part of a multi-year effort that DNR has been undertaking to renovate a lot of our high and significant hazard dams. Clopper Lake Dam is a significant hazard dam. That means if it were to ever fail, it could cause major destruction to infrastructure below the dam. So that project is in design as we speak. We had projected the cost of it to be approximately $12 million. MDE has not announced publicly its fee structure yet. If they were to do the full 3% allowable under law, that would be $360,000 that we would have to find to pay that fee.
Great. Well, we'll stay in touch on that because I want to make sure I understand what the impact is going to be. Any other questions for this panel? Great. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. We have a few public witnesses. I'll call you up in groups of 4. Catherine Workman, Owen Bailey, Riley Lehman, and Tim Casey. Please come up and start in any order you wish. Just be sure to state your name when you start, please.
Good afternoon, members of the subcommittee. For the record, my name is Owen Bailey. I'm here on behalf of Partners for Open Space, a statewide coalition whose sole focus is protecting the funds through the transfer tax. You have our written testimony, so I'll be brief and just say that the transfer tax, or what's often referred to as Program Open Space, it's an amazing program that returns dividends to the entire state and is further supported through the strong partnerships between the amazing staff at the Department of Natural Resources and our dedicated environmental nonprofits in Maryland that builds on those dividends. The various programs, which you'll hear about from others today, will showcase the balance of the sustainable land use that comes from protection of our lands and investments into our public spaces and open spaces to keep the land in Maryland. So with that, we ask for help us support the programs under the transfer tax. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the subcommittee. My name is Riley Lehman. I'm the executive director of the Baltimore County Land Trust Coalition, which is a nonprofit dedicated to advancing land conservation and stewardship alongside each of the 5 land trusts in our county. The Rural Legacy Program is essential to the work of the land trusts in Baltimore County and the advancement of land conservation across the state. Land conservation is important because it ensures that wildlife habitat is maintained, that our natural resources are protected, and that access to nature and open space is equitably distributed and convenient for all. Development pressure on natural and open space land in Baltimore County has never been stronger. Land conservation encourages responsible, denser development in our existing urban areas. Once our open space and natural areas are gone, they are hard, if not impossible, to get back. Rural Legacy Program funding will allow the land trusts in Baltimore County and across the state to continue their work in protecting our valued agricultural and natural resources for generations to come. So the Baltimore County Land Trust Coalition supports the budget as proposed and respectfully requests that the Rural Legacy Program and other elements of Program Open Space continue to be funded. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Zucker, Vice Chair McCray, and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Catherine Workman, and I'm representing the Maryland, D.C. chapter of the Nature Conservancy. TNC is a global conservation organization working to conserve the waters and lands on which all life depends. We support advancing the administration's proposed DNR capital budget for FY27. TNC advocates for programs and investments that ensure economic and environmental benefits are enhanced today and made sustainable for tomorrow. We believe that the proposed DNR budget broadly reflects this. Environmental protection and robust climate programs are a fraction of the state's budget, but provide outsized benefits for all Marylanders. Organizations like TNC are able to leverage these funds and multiply the benefits. For example, TNC and DNR partnered to leverage a Chesapeake and Atlantic Coastal Bays Trust Fund allocation to restore more than 3,000 acres of wetlands and forested buffers in the Pocomoke River watershed. That project is estimated to remove more than 70,000 pounds of nitrogen and over 7,500 pounds of phosphorus per year to advance our Bay goals. TNC is currently partnering with DNR, the Rough Grouse Society, and the Maryland Extension Service to leverage DNR's Woodlands Incentive Program for improved forest management in Western Maryland. We know Maryland faces a challenging fiscal 27 budget cycle, and TNC expresses our thanks to the General Assembly and the administration for your continued efforts to preserve funding for foundational environmental programs, including those I've already mentioned, as well as Program Open Space and Green Space Equity, Rural Legacy, and the Waterways Improvement Fund. For these reasons, we urge this committee to advance the administration's proposed DNR capital budget. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Chair Zucker and Vice Chair McRae and committee members. My name is Tim Casey. I'm with the Friends of Maryland State Parks. It's an all-volunteer 501c3. We do advocate for the full funding in FY 2027 for the capital budget for TNR and consequently the state parks. Please do not cut this funding. The following two comments relate to the GMO Act enacted in June 2022. First, the Department of General Services has 5 dedicated positions that are dedicated to DNR-type projects in a cross-agency collaboration. There has been difficulty ever since the act was passed in keeping these positions filled, and they're therefore helping with the implementation of the capital projects that are in the GMO. This has been a systemic and strategic issue. It extends timelines, causes rework, and increases cost. It's really more of a question. I know the Secretary is working on this in interagency collaboration, but how can the legislature help get these positions filled so therefore we can complete more projects? Number 2, however, is good news regarding the state park capital programs relative to critical maintenance. DNR has successfully filled the 5 authorized positions, engineering and construction, that Mr. Gray mentioned, with qualified staff. However, since the DNR capital program has been increased to a $400,000 authority level, more projects are being completed than ever before. More backlog projects are being completed on or ahead of schedule, which is increasing the pace of investment in our state parks. This is a big win for the state parks and consequently the results of the Great Maryland Outdoors Act implementation. This authority is strategic. So therefore, given this progress, will the legislature please consider removing a 2029 sunset and would increase the $400,000 authority to $500,000? Thank you.
Thank you very much to this panel. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day. Now call up Susan Shingletker, Anna Griffith, Bill Crouch, and Ann Jones. Welcome. Start in any order you wish. Good to see you all.
Confused. Okay, sure. Thank you, Chairman Zucker and members of the committee. My name is Susan Shingledecker, and I'm CEO of Chesapeake Conservancy, the only watershed-wide organization focused on both land conservation and stream restoration to achieve a healthier Chesapeake Bay. I know it's been a long day, and you've received our written testimony, so I will keep this to 1 minute or less to say that with regard to Program Open Space and Maryland's vital land conservation programs, Chesapeake Conservancy supports the capital budget as proposed.
As you know, land conservation isn't just about creating or enhancing parks for better mental and physical wellness. Among other benefits, land conservation helps improve water quality, ensures a local food supply, and it provides resilience against a changing climate. Conservation helps slow the biodiversity decline, helps sustain resource-based industries, and it connects the present with the past. These days, land conservation and restoration is largely targeted and coordinated with willing landowners and a vibrant network of on-the-ground conservation nonprofits that depend on full cash funding in order to bring about these incredible conservation results. Chesapeake Conservancy's state-of-the-art data and geospatial tools allow for immensely targeted conservation and restoration, thereby maximizing state investments. We understand the tough fiscal challenges that exist, but respectfully request that there not be any additional cuts or diversions to Maryland's lauded land conservation programs. On behalf of the Chesapeake Conservancy, we greatly thank you for your service and for your continued support of conservation and restoration of the land in our state. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Anna Mudd Griffith. I am the Senior Policy Director for Potomac Conservancy. We are the Potomac region's leading clean water advocate with over 42,000 members located in the Potomac watershed, most of whom live here in Maryland. I'd like to thank the chair and committee members for your time today. Today I'm here on behalf of Forever Maryland, which is a coalition of nearly 30 land trusts located in every region in the state of Maryland. We are here in strong and full support of the Department of Natural Resources capital programs in this year's budget. DNR has been a long-standing partner of Maryland's land trusts, both in the acquisition and stewardship of land protected through Program Open Space. For those who don't know, Program Open Space is a nationally respected conservation program, and its funding has significantly contributed to Maryland's recent achievement of preserving 30% of land ahead of schedule and sets the table for our 40 by 40 goals. Forever Maryland respectfully urges the committee to recommend full and sustained funding for DNR's capital programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Ann Jones, and I'm here today on behalf of the Land Preservation Trust, which is a small local land trust in northern Baltimore County. One of the easements we did this year was actually on a winery, and as it's late in the day, I wish that I could share some of that product with you so that you could get to see some of what this actually does preserve on the ground when we go there, but unfortunately, I don't think that's quite allowed. We are in full support of the budget as presented. Somehow I've been at this long enough that I've ended up being a little bit of the historian of the program, and I just would like to point out that there are numerous, shall we say, reallocations of the fundings over the years. There was about $600 million between 2002 and 2018. There have been consistent cuts, and this budget includes the $25 million reduction that was part of the surprise $100 million reduction last year. So yes, the programs are continuing. Yes, we can keep the wine flowing. Yes, we can keep the ice cream going on those farms, but we would very much appreciate that it does not go beyond the levels here and that would continue to fund these important programs. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, members of the subcommittee. My name is Bill Crouch, and I am the Maryland State Director for the Conservation Fund, a national 501c3 nonprofit land trust. Thank you for the opportunity to support Program Open Space and specifically the state side of POS. The POS stateside generally provides for publicly accessible lands, and DNR, at the direction of the governor, has prioritized opening lands to the public, recognizing the many economic and health benefits. Recently, DNR acquired what will be the first state park in Wycomico County. The Watipquin Creek acquisition is 445 acres and will bring educational and recreational opportunities. Every county in the state will have a state park. The state side of POS makes these acquisitions possible. Even with this impressive milestone having been met, many parks still close due to capacity issues. The demand for publicly accessible land remains. Lands acquired with stateside are not just idle green spaces. Lands purchased for public access are solid investments. According to the Outdoor Industry Association in 2019, the outdoor recreation industry in Maryland contributed $14 billion in spending, generated 109,000 direct jobs, and generated $951 million in state and local tax revenues. Protected lands help combat climate change, and time outside carries innumerable health benefits. Preserve land protects vulnerable communities by combating severe storm impacts like flooding. Between the direct economic benefits, protections from climate change, and the health benefits of protected publicly accessible land, program open space funding is an outstanding investment with immeasurable returns. The Conservation Fund takes a favorable position on DNR's capital budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for this panel? All right, seeing none, thank you so much. Have a great day. I'm going to call up Jim Brown, Carol Bean, and Matt Stegman. Start in any order you wish. Matt, why don't you kick us off?
Sure.
Okay.
Be happy to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Matt Stegman with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. To everything that's been said so far about land preservation, I would add a hearty me too. We support the budget for DNR capital because it's a great agency that does a lot of important things really well. And one of the important things that it does very, very well is large-scale oyster restoration, and that is why we would ask the committee in your wisdom, if you find capacity to do any strategic enhancements, to consider oyster restoration as one of the areas that could really benefit from that. Our large-scale oyster restoration program is a global model. It returns tens of millions of dollars a year in co-benefits, most notably more productive blue crab harvests and more productive oyster harvests in areas that abut our sanctuaries. The budget for this year has a 41% reduction from last year for oyster restoration funding. If you look kind of what's programmed over the next couple years, we've had a really robust effort. There's a little bit of a dip, and then it's scheduled to kick back up in the in the next 4 or 5 years. We would say that what would be more cost-effective and more scientifically prudent would be to have a more steady approach to that funding. There is a cost when you have sort of a start and stop with this work. It's very infrastructure intensive. So when you're mobilizing and demobilizing equipment, having inconsistent demand for oyster spats, that does incur additional cost. I think oyster restoration, in addition to the state investment, it leverages private investment, creates a culture of oyster stewardship. You should have a letter from a number of oyster gardeners talking about the importance of the program. So again, we support the budget, but if you do find some additional resources for oyster restoration, they would be put to good use.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jim Brown. I'm with Audubon Mid-Atlantic. We're the regional presence of the National Audubon Society, representing over 35,000 Marylanders that seek to protect birds and the places that they need to survive now into the future. We urge a favorable review of the administration's budget for DNR. We recognize that this is a challenging budget situation, and we commend the administration for their significant investment in the future of DNR in this year. I'd like to take my time to highlight 2 programs that talk about the significant collaboration and partnership that Audubon has with the Department of Natural Resources to show that investments in DNR are leveraged by partners like Audubon and like those that you've just heard of. One of them is the Important Bird Areas program, which has identified 44 unique places across the state of Maryland that are noted for their significant valuable habitat that sustain the lives and the populations of 400 different bird species throughout the state. We've identified these areas in partnership with the Department of Natural Resources, and these areas often overlap with the state's public parks, forests, and waterways networks. So, and these areas are acquired and funded through the transfer tax and program open space. So the transfer tax and program open space, as has been mentioned, are important not only to bird habitat, but to the publicly accessible network of green spaces across the state. The second area I'd like to highlight with this collaboration is a program called the Marshes for Tomorrow. And it is a program that we are collaborating with the Department of Natural Resources on to revitalize and restore 30,000 acres of Chesapeake tidal salt marsh. We can't do this without DNR, and we know that DNR relies on external partners to do this too. This 30,000 acres that will be restored throughout the Chesapeake and coastal bays is not just bird habitat, but it protects Maryland's fishing economy, it protects Maryland's agriculture industry, and it provides a protective buffer to the communities along the Eastern Shore. So I just wanted to highlight that these investments in DNR are leveraged much further with external partners to protect Maryland's economy much beyond habitat. Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Carol Bean. I'm here today with the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy, supporting the DNR budget. We use program Open Space a lot on the Eastern Shore. Most recently, we've used it to provide public access to a park on the waterfront, which is severely lacking in our area despite all the water that surrounds us. And we've also used it to preserve working farms, so that is a primary driver of the work that we do. And we think program Open Space is such a key program, and it really impacts every district, not just the Eastern Shore, supporting parks and trails, playgrounds, and recreational facilities. And it's a way for all Marylanders to be able to experience the natural resources of our beautiful state. We particularly, as I mentioned, use it for farmland easements, which has seen some dramatic cuts in the last few years that we're feeling fairly acutely on the Eastern Shore. But this is also one of the most sort of fiscally responsible conservation tools that's available to the state. So once you have an easement in place, the land remains privately owned, and it requires no ongoing state expenditures to maintain it. So it's permanent protection without a permanent public expense. So we think that's an important tool, and we hope to be able to get the farmland funding back as soon as possible. So for us on the Eastern Shore, where we rely really heavily on natural resource-based industries for our economy, as well as defining our way of life, program Open Space and the DNR programs that we utilize are tremendously important. So we encourage full funding as robustly as possible.
Thank you very much. Any questions for this panel? Seeing none, thank you very much. We'll move on to the Department of Juvenile Services. Madeline Miller. One of my partners on Capitol.
Good afternoon. My name is Madeline Miller, and today I'll be discussing the Department of Juvenile Services. This analysis discusses an authorization of design funding for the new Cheltenham Youth Treatment Center and 5 deauthorizations from 3 past or completed projects. The capital program that DJS has is most often used to address facilities in which youth live. Most DJS youth in residential care are living in secure detention facilities or in secure committed facilities post-adjudication. Population trends for youth in detention are shown in Exhibit 1 on page 4. In fiscal 2019, the average daily population was 281 youths. Though the population was increasing post its pandemic era lows, ADP in fiscal 2024 was only 264, or 6% lower than in 2019. Between 2024 and 2025, the population was nearly level. Draft data for the first 6 months of fiscal 2026 suggests the ADP could fall again. Overall ADP remained approximately 43 youths under the maximum capacity of DJS detention facilities, as shown in Exhibit 2 on page 5 throughout fiscal 2025. A discussion of the department's committed populations can be found on pages 6 through 8. Exhibit 3 shows the committed residential average daily population for each of the possible committed placement types between fiscal 2016 and estimated data for fiscal 26. All 3 are lower than they were a decade ago. Since fiscal 2021, overall ADP ranged between 133 and 151 kids each year. The average daily population for youth in DJS-owned facilities was approximately 77 in fiscal 2025. Post-pandemic, in fiscal 2023 through 2025, more youth were in state-operated facilities than contracted in-state placements, which was unusual for recent history. In fiscal 2016 through 2022 and in estimated fiscal 26 data, ADP for contracted in-state youth is expected to be higher than that of youth in DJS-operated facilities. Even as a larger percentage of youth were in state-operated facilities between fiscal 22 and 25, that population declined. Because the committed population within state-operated facilities is lower than it was a decade ago, DJS permanently closed a few facilities and still has a couple that are temporarily closed, as shown in Exhibit 4 on page 8. This exhibit compares the capacity of open facilities with average daily population in fiscal 2025. In that year, 91 beds were available, and the cumulative ADP represented approximately 84.3% of capacity. The issues section begins on page 9. Last year, DJS had submitted a 10-year facilities master plan for the 2024 to 2034 period. That update was necessary, not only because it had been 10 years since the previous one, but because the residential populations had changed so much. Additionally, the number of facilities in use and the capital projects that were proposed had changed quite a lot since 2015. Exhibit 5 shows how placements to facilities have changed in the past 5 years and the percentage of each population that was girls or young women. In fiscal 2021, the percentage of placements for female youth was over 12% for both the detention and treatment facility types. It is now under 6% in the treatment facilities. Since the 2015 Facilities Master Plan, DJS has had several capital projects not go forward or get past the design phase, including a 48-bed detention facility for girls, in addition to the Cheltenham Youth Detention Center for female youth that would have been 24 beds, a 48-bed treatment facility to be added on the Cheltenham campus for male and female youth, and finally a 24-bed treatment facility for male youth in Baltimore City, known as the Maryland Youth Residence Center. One of those projects has fund balances available to it from general obligation bond funding provided in fiscal 2016 and 2017. The fiscal 27 capital budget as introduced would deauthorize funding from both of those amounts due to the project's cancellation. In the 2024 FMP, DJS only proposed building the MYRC, which had already received $1.1 million in design funds before the facilities master plan was created. Part of the justification for this project was due to the projected capacity needs of the department, as well as the condition of existing facilities. Exhibit 6 on page 11 shows average daily population projections from the FMP compared with 1 year of actual data. In fiscal 25, additional hardware secure treatment beds were needed than was estimated. Though the MYRC project would have added capacity of that type, it's not moving forward after DJS consulted with the Baltimore City Mayor and delegations to the General Assembly. Accordingly, the fiscal 2027 capital budget as introduced would deauthorize all GO bonds previously authorized for that project. On January 5th of this year, DJS submitted an addendum to the facility master plan to the Maryland General Assembly. The addendum describes a total of 6 projects as priorities for the department, as shown in Exhibit 7 on page 12. DJS proposes 1 project for the current capital improvement plan, a 48-bed treatment center on the Cheltenham campus known as the new CYTC, with 40 beds for boys and 8 beds for girls. Jumping forward to page 15, this project is described in greater detail. The budget as introduced includes $4.3 million to begin design for the treatment center, as well as a maintenance and storage facility on the Cheltenham campus. The new CYTC would be the only committed treatment facility located in Prince George's County. Other treatment facilities are located in Allegheny, Frederick, Garrett, and Washington counties. This would also allow DJS youth to stop housing detained female youth and treatment at the same facility. Currently, both populations are located at the Western Maryland Children's Center. Though the previous CYTC project had funding authorized for it, that funding is no longer available. Part 1 and Part 2 program documents for that project had been approved by DBM in November of 2022, but were resubmitted by DJS in September of 2025. In its testimony today, DJS had comment on the approval status of the program documents submitted in September. Assuming fiscal 27 funding is approved for the new CYTC project, DJS anticipates that design service bids will be released in June or July of this year, and that design period could begin in October. When construction begins, it will be completed in 2 phases. The first phase will involve the demolition and site redevelopment, and in the second construction phase, the new CYTC and the facility maintenance and storage building will be built. Now returning to the issues section, page 13. The second issue has to do with the Baltimore City Juvenile Justice Center. This facility opened in 2003, and DJS recently completed a capital project there to expand the educational space that's available to youth. A funding history of that expansion project is shown in Exhibit 8. Approximately $15.5 million in GO bonds was appropriated for this project, but the department will only be using about $13.3 million of that amount. Fewer GO bonds were necessary because DJS reports that market conditions improved when the construction cost was estimated compared when it went to bid. Additionally, some costs, such as for a programmable logic controller in fiscal 25, were paid through the department's operating budget. In conclusion, DLS recommends the approval of the general obligation bond authorization and the amendments to prior authorizations. I'd be happy to take questions from the committee at this time.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Miller? Seeing none, thank you very much. Call up the agency. Great to see you all.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Betsy Fox Tolentino, Secretary at the Department of Juvenile Services, and I'm joined with Colette Coleman-Price, our Director of Capital Planning, Design, and Leasing. First, I'd like to thank Madeline Miller for her thoughtful and thorough analysis and for our continued partnership and engagement with the department. The department has one capital project before you, the new Cheltenham Youth Treatment Center, and we support the design funds allocated for this fiscal year. We agree with the recommended actions. There was one area that we were asked to comment, specifically DJS was asked to comment on the approval status of the program documents submitted in September 2025. Those documents are still under review. They were submitted to DGS and DBM and have not yet been approved and are under DBM review. And that's all I have. Happy to take any questions.
Great job. Any questions? Senator Heltman, you don't have 20, you're good? I'm just teasing. It's good. Thank you very much. It's been a long night, so we're just teasing, but no,
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Colleagues, we'll turn our attention now to the Maryland Independent Colleges and University Association. Ms. Bugel, please. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Subeksha Bujel here to discuss the Maryland Independent College and University Association. The fiscal 27 capital budget for the Maryland Independent College and University Association totals $8 million for 3 projects. Bottom of page 1 is the recommended actions. DLS recommends approving all general obligation bond authorizations for MICUA. On page 2, we have the budget overview. The Maryland Independent College and University Association, or MICUA, Higher Education Facilities Grant Program provides funds to Maryland's private colleges and universities to assist with costs of constructing and renovating academic facilities and infrastructure. Exhibit 1 on page 3 shows the MICUA capital grant provided by the state from fiscal 2017 through fiscal 27 request. During this period, the state has provided approximately $123.3 million for 36 projects at 12 institutions through the MICUA. Exhibit 2 on page 4 summarizes the fiscal 27 capital grant projects. $3.2 million is provided to St. John's College, which is 25.6% of the total project. $1.6 million to Johns Hopkins University, which is 5.9% of the total project. And $3.2 million to Washington College, 17.8% of the total project. Starting on page 5 is discussion on these 3 projects. The grant for St. John's is for construction of art and academic hall. MICUA reports that existing art spaces are functionally inadequate and are not compliant with Americans with Disabilities Act. Existing art spaces are spread out over different floors, limiting collaborative projects. The new hall will include accessible spaces, including a ceramic studio, wood shop, art studio, and additional classroom space. The design phase commenced in September 2025 using institutional funds prior to any state commitment to the project. When design concludes, the college anticipates proceeding directly to construction beginning in September 2026. with substantial project completion estimated for September 2028. Grant for Johns Hopkins University is associated with renovation of 2 former residence halls located on Peabody's Mount Vernon campus. MICUA reports that the renovation will create new classrooms, studios, and rehearsal and performance venues. The project will also improve operational efficiency, safety, and energy use of the buildings. The design phase started in May 2025 using institutional funds. When design concludes, the college anticipates starting construction in December 2026, with project completion estimated in December 2029. Grant for the Washington College is for construction of a new building for the Warheim School of Global Business, Economics, and Social Impact. The building will include technology-enabled classrooms and study and meeting spaces. The project design started in August 2025 using institutional funds. The design phase is expected to conclude in June 2026, and construction is scheduled to start in August 26, with project completion estimated for November 2027. Exhibit 3 on page 7 provides an update on the projects from fiscal 21 to 2025 that have unexpended funds. A total of $9.8 million are unexpended. 2 of the 5 projects listed are in the process of requesting reimbursement for completed projects. That concludes my presentation, and I'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for that analysis. Any questions? Okay. Seeing none. Matt, come on up. Bring your team up.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Chair Zucker, members of the committee, I'm Matt Power, the president of MICUA. First, we want to thank our DLS analysts for a very thoughtful analysis on all of our projects. We are seeking the subcommittee's help on 2 items. The first is we are in the governor's allowance for $8 million. We are hoping to get increased to $10 million for a total of $2 million. Our second request is a more technical one, which is the elimination of the match requirement for our capital grants. Eliminating the match would allow us to put the dollars to use immediately when the capital budget passes. Currently, we have to spend our own funding first, then we can draw down, go to the Board of Public Works and certify our match, and then draw the funds and get reimbursed by DGS subsequent to that. And as a result, there's often a year or more that the funds sit idle without being put to work. We commit to continuing to match well over 50% for each of our projects moving forward. A lot of times we have projects that are getting done in the summertime, so if there's that delay in reimbursement and a cash flow issue, projects get pushed, project costs escalate, and we think it'd be a better use of the dollars you very generously appropriate if we were able to access them immediately, because our projects are ready to go, and we have a great track record of working with the state. Since FY14, the state has authorized about $142 million for MICUA projects. That's been matched by $995 million in private investment that our campuses bring to the table. So we graciously ask you to consider both of our requests. With that, we have members from each of the campuses here for any questions. Your analysts did a great job covering the projects, but they're happy to answer any questions if the committee has them. Thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, and we certainly appreciate the time that you took out of your day, and we appreciate you all and definitely have you on our radar. Is there any questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you. We'll now turn to the Department of Housing and Community Development. Emily Haskell.
Thank you. My name is Emily Haskell, and I'll be presenting the capital budget analysis for the Department of Housing and Community Development. I'm going to start on page 6 with Exhibit 2. This shows DHCD's capital budget over time, totaling in fiscal 2027, $352.7 million. This is a little lower than in fiscal 2026, first because of a planned decrease in funding for rental housing programs from earlier highs. There are also no funds, federal funds for the State Small Business Credit Initiative in fiscal 2027, as the next tranche is expected in fiscal 2028. And also there's a decrease in $4 million for the special loan programs due to an unencumbered balance in those programs. For the first time in fiscal 2027, DHCD's proposed budget includes preliminary project awards for its state revitalization programs. Those programs include the Baltimore Regional Neighborhood Initiative, or BRNI, the National Capital Program, known as NED, the statewide component of the Strategic Demolition Fund, the SEED program, Community Legacy, and Business Facade program. In recent years, the legislature has reserved funds under these programs for specified projects. In Exhibit 3 on page 7, you can see in fiscal 2026, reserved projects in these 5 programs accounted for 50% of total funds in these programs. DHCD awards the remaining funding competitively through a combined annual application round. This includes prioritization starting in fiscal 2026 for just communities, which are disinvested neighborhoods identified by DHCD as required by chapters 147 and 148 of 2024. I've asked the department to comment on the process and criteria for awarding these funds. Next, starting on page 8, Exhibit 4 shows the funding over time for DHCD's rental housing programs, which aim to create affordable housing for low to moderate income households. In fiscal 2027, these programs are funded at the planned level of $93.5 million. In fiscal 2025, these programs helped support the creation or preservation of nearly 4,000 affordable rental housing units. Next, I'll turn to housing needs more broadly. In July 2025, DHCD updated its statewide assessment of housing needs. Some takeaways from this included that the estimated shortage of homes affordable to extremely low-income households has grown significantly since the 2020 report. But housing affordability challenges are also felt more broadly across the entire income spectrum. There's also, the report noted, in particular, a growing shortage of affordable housing for low-income seniors, and housing production in general has not kept pace with demand. This past January, DHCD identified housing production targets by jurisdiction as required by a September 2025 executive order. Exhibit 5 on page 10 shows the statewide targets for the next 5 years, which scale up to a goal of 39,000 units in fiscal 2030. The last topic I'd like to talk about today is broadband, which starts on the bottom of page 10. A total of $574 million in federal funds have been provided in recent years in DHCD's capital budget. This includes both American Rescue Plan Act funds and funds from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act BEAD program. I'll start with the ARPA funds. Exhibit 6 on page 11 shows that these funds are approximately 50% expended. I will note there's $13 million that has not been awarded yet. This was originally allocated for the public housing programs, but those are still unawarded after several application rounds. DHCD is working with the U.S. Treasury on alternative allowable uses for those funds. And I've asked the department to comment on the actions they're taking to make sure all of these funds are expended in advance of the December 2026 expenditure deadline, in particular those $13 million that were still unawarded. Turning to the BEAD program, DHCD's BEAD plan was approved by the federal government just last month. DHCD's initial allocation for BEAD is $267.7 million. The final proposal included preliminary awards of $79 million. This reflects the competitive funding round that will serve all on-served locations across the state. The amount is lower than expected due to some federal changes to the program criteria to prioritize lowest cost projects regardless of technology, and also the fact that locations have been served already through prior ARPA funds. The remaining $189 million in funding could be used for non-deployment activities. However, there's been no federal guidance issued to date on the uses of those funds. Lastly, Exhibit 7 on page 13 shows the BEAD awards by jurisdiction. DLS's recommendations are to concur with the PAYGO allowance and to approve the general obligation bond authorization. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Haskell? Seeing none, thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, if you want to bring your team up.
Good afternoon, Chair Zucker and Vice Chair McCray, esteemed members of the committee. So good to be with you this afternoon. I'm sorry, I'll start off by saying apologies for not being able to join you. The operating budget hearing, I had a canceled flight returning home during the blizzard. So my apologies. For the record, my name is Secretary Jake Day. I'm with the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development, and I appreciate the opportunity to discuss DHCD's 2027 capital budget. Our capital request reflects a disciplined, strategic investment in Maryland's communities, focus on housing production, and I've got with me Assistant Secretary Greg Hare of the Community Development Administration, neighborhood revitalization. I also have with me Assistant Secretary Carol Gilbert of the Neighborhood Revitalization Division, and economic competitiveness. And as I've said before, Maryland's housing affordability crisis is driven by chronic underproduction. Our capital budget finances construction and redevelopment, also revitalization projects that expand housing supply, support home ownership, and strengthen local economies. DHCD remains one of the most effective agencies in leveraging state capital. In fiscal year 2025, DHCD generated $8.5 billion in total economic impact, and every dollar of state funding leveraged $16 in direct investment. Our capital programs are structured to maximize return, utilizing general obligation bonds, revenue bonds, tax credits, and private investment to stretch every public dollar further. Whether through rental housing works, community legacy, Bernie, seed, or neighborhood business development, our capital strategy supports both housing supply and economic vitality. I want to briefly address the two topics where additional comment was requested in the analysis. I also want to thank Ms. Haskell and want to concur, of course, with the DLS recommendations. But the two topics, the state's revitalization program funding process and the deployment of broadband ARPA funds by the end of the year, I can touch on. The department has long used a rigorous multi-agency, competitively scored evaluation process for the state revitalization program applications. Applications are assessed on a variety of factors, including economic impact, community need, financial feasibility, project readiness, and long-term sustainability. For FY27, as part of the department's commitment to fiscal responsibility, we adjusted the timeline so that this evaluation occurs earlier, allowing us to provide project award recommendations at the beginning of the legislative session to better inform budgeting decisions. This is also a part of our overall effort to shorten timelines and shift them to the left for state review processes. Through these programs, we proposed $73.9 million in fiscal year 2027 to support 185 projects across Maryland, including business expansion and retention, facade and streetscape improvements, mixed-use development, demolition, home rehabilitation incentives, and community facilities. This approach ultimately ensures that we are providing results of the evaluation at the beginning of session, giving legislators clear insight into each project's readiness and capacity to responsibly deploy funds and deliver measurable outcomes. And we look forward to continuing to partner with each of you throughout the year to inform these recommendations for next year as well. As an update to our deployment of ARPA broadband capital funds, we are on track to fully deploy all funds ahead of the December 31st, 2026 deadline. The majority of the $157.1 million noted in the analysis as unexpended has already been awarded and aligned to projects, and it will be deployed by December 31st, 2026, and is supporting projects under active construction, by the way, through network infrastructure, difficult to serve premise program, and the public housing program. Expenditures are accelerating as these projects move toward completion, and we actively monitor progress and work directly with subgrantees on permitting challenges, pole attachment, and other implementation issues that have arisen to keep projects on schedule. Approximately $11.7 million is the only total funds remaining available for redeployment. And these funds we anticipate being obligated by late spring 2026 and invested through existing programs to expand middle mile infrastructure and extend service to difficult to reach areas. So based on the current timelines, again, we expect all funds to be deployed by the end of 2026 for the ARPA broadband funds. I do want to just make one additional note that on the BEAD funds, the additional remainder, I want to give credit to Ronnie Hammond and the team at the Office of Statewide Broadband who fought very hard to ensure that in our negotiations with the Trump administration, that those funds remained eligible for future non-deployment activities. So we don't yet know what the answer will be, but those funds are at least still on the table.
And with that, I look forward to continuing to work with you and hearing any questions you have and responding to any questions you have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any questions? Yeah. And I know, Mr. Secretary, you and I are going to keep in touch on Ned and Bernie and all of that, right?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yes, we will. Look forward to working with you directly.
All right, great. Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We have some public testimony. We have Dennis Rasmussen, Robert Myers, Casey Walker, and Ellen Burke. Welcome. You can go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair McCray and members of the Budget Subcommittee. My name is Ellen Burke, and I'm the Executive Director of City Life Community Builders, located in East Baltimore. I'm here today to respectfully urge you to fully fund the FY27 capital budget for the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development, including CLCB's FY27 capital grant awards. For many years, we have partnered with DHCD to transform vacant properties, stabilize blocks, expand affordable home ownership opportunities, and advance community development and workforce training initiatives. We've also partnered on large-scale catalytic projects, such as the renovation of the Hone Lithograph campus. This project stands as a powerful example of how state capital investment can transform a historic industrial site into an engine of education, workforce development, and neighborhood revitalization. Today, continued capital investment through DHCD is critical to advancing two of CLCB's major initiatives. In partnership with the Collington Square Neighborhood Association, we are piloting a legacy homeowner repair program for long-term homeowners. Many legacy residents are living in homes that require major system replacements, new roofs, and accessibility modifications. Without access to this funding, these homeowners face involuntary displacement, and their properties often become the next vacant house on the block. Strategic capital repairs prevent that cycle before it begins. Secondly, in partnership with the Johns Hopkins University Whiting School of Engineering and Morgan State University, we are developing the Artificial Intelligence and Material Manufacturing Workforce Development Academy. This forward-looking workforce initiative will train more than 400 individuals annually in advanced manufacturing technologies. DHCD funding will make it possible to construct the physical infrastructure to connect these historically disinvested neighborhoods to high-growth economic sectors of the future while strengthening Maryland's overall economy. We are grateful for your support of City Life Community Builders FY27 capital awards and urge you to fully approve DHCD's capital budget. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair and Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this afternoon. My name is Richard Green, and I represent the Maryland Mortgage Bankers and Brokers Association. I have served as president of the organization, and I'm currently legislative co-chair. We have partnered our members, which are banks, mortgage brokers, credit unions. We have been partners with the department in making financing available for decades and decades. We've watched the department, the program grow and thrive and basically continue to provide low to moderate income eligible Maryland homeowners the opportunity to achieve the dream of homeownership by providing down payment assistance and very affordable mortgage rates. Additionally, the Smart Buy program assists home buyers with student loan debt, and the Home Ability program assists households to make their homes workable as disabled persons. Without such assistance, home ownership would not be possible, especially in these times where affordability is an incredible issue. The department has many other initiatives, if adequately funded, would address the creation and development of affordable housing communities and rental programs necessary in these times of housing crisis never seen before in Maryland. A look into all that DHC does and can do is the reason why the MMBVA supports fully funding the capital funding needs of the department. Homeownership helps generate generational wealth, builds communities, and is what is needed in Maryland. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the subcommittee. My name is Robert Myers. I oversee comprehensive community development and neighborhood housing services of Baltimore. I want to briefly share what BVRI and Bernie funding produces in measurable terms. In our target neighborhoods, these programs allow us to move long vacant properties into active redevelopment. We currently deliver 3 to 4 renovated homes per quarter, and we're working to responsibly scale that capacity. So the impact is clear. On many of our blocks, homes once valued between $20,000 to $30,000 are now selling, even in as-is condition, between $70,000 to about $150,000. That represents property value increases ranging from approximately 150% to about 500%. For homes we directly redevelop, values often increase by roughly 229% from acquisition to resale. Because property tax rates are fixed, those value increases translate almost directly into approximately a 228% increase in recurring annual property tax contribution per home. Each property stabilized not only strengthens the block, it permanently expands the local tax base. Bernie ensures legacy residents benefit as well through facade improvements, senior home repairs, and safety upgrades on the same blocks where redevelopment is occurring. This also supports Baltimore-based contractors and small local businesses, multiplying the economic impact beyond just housing alone. These programs are driving measurable wealth growth and tax base expansion in historically disinvested neighborhoods. I respectfully request a favorable report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Ernie Grew, and I'm here today as an over 40-year veteran of the mortgage industry, and I'm also a past president of the Maryland Mortgage Bankers and Brokers Association. You've already heard from my colleague, Rich Green, and a lot of my statement he's already mentioned, so I'm going to shorten my version a little bit and just say, frankly, that combining the programs, especially the Maryland Mortgage Program, and the expertise available through the Department of Housing and Community Development with the production and the operational capabilities of the over 100 active and approved lenders really results in a force multiplier that brings this program throughout the state of Maryland and actually opens doors that otherwise might remain shut. So the Maryland Mortgage Program is a proven solution that actually exists today, and it does provide crucial assistance that enables potential homeowners to live and work in Maryland. And it is in full alignment with the department's mission to transform communities into places people want to call home. So its continued funding is vital. So I therefore respectfully urge you to approve and fully fund the requested appropriations for the Department of Housing and Community Development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For Ernie and Richard, are you guys up here representing someone else I called?
Rasmussen.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for this panel? Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to call up Layla Kohler-Frug, Meredith Chaikin, Chrissy Erb, and Cynthia Gomez. Welcome. Start in any order you wish.
Hello. I'm going to go ahead and start. Good afternoon to all of you, Chairman Zucker, Vice Chair McCray, the committee. My name is Layla Kohler-Frug, and I'm the Vice President of Homeownership and Community Relations at Habitat for Humanity of the Chesapeake. We're a leading provider of affordable homeownership opportunities in Central Maryland. So that's inclusive of Anne Arundel County, Baltimore County, Howard County, and Baltimore City. I'm here today in part to talk about the FY27 budget and to applaud all of the work that DHCD has been doing as I watch what's been happening around the state and with many of my peer organizations with their uses of capital funds deployed by the state. At the present moment, we are looking at a project in Penlucy for which we've been pre-awarded, potentially, funds through SEED. That's in partnership with Johns Hopkins. And our work in Penlucy includes some very innovative practices for establishing energy efficiency. We're using something called insulated concrete form, which can cut energy cost in half, in addition to the Energy Star work that we generally do. The other project that we have an application for or pre-award via Community Legacy is for 5 new homes that we're building in Severn, Maryland. We're very happy to be able to be building in Anne Arundel County again. It's been a second. And those homes are also Energy Star efficient. So as you may know, we don't just build homes, we partner with our future homeowners, and we have a robust program for introducing them to the practicalities of homeownership. It is the programs such as Bernie, Bivry, Uplift, CDBG, Community Legacy, and SEED that help us with that work. And I see the timer, so I'm going to say that I'm grateful for the support of these funding resources in the past and present, and I respectfully request your support of the capital budget this time.
Do you mind passing? Of course. Thank you. Great, thank you. Chair Zucker and members of the committee, my name is Chrissy Erb, and I am the Executive Director of the Essex Community Development Corporation. I am here in support of DHCD's capital budget and the $900,000 allocation for the Essex Shared Commercial Kitchen under the Neighborhood Revitalization Division. Essex is one of Baltimore County's largest communities. It's a proud working waterfront with deep roots in small, locally owned businesses. Today, our community is a vibrant melting pot of cultures, cuisines, and entrepreneurial energy. We are on the cusp of a tipping point along Eastern Boulevard, the reemergence of a true Main Street corridor. And in partnership with a local entrepreneur who immigrated from Ecuador and built successful food businesses in Essex, we are transforming the former Fruitland Market, once a beloved neighborhood staple, into a shared commercial kitchen. In recent years, the building has sat underutilized and it's become an eyesore. Through this project, it will instead provide affordable, licensed production kitchen space paired with workforce and business training through CCBC, converting local talent into viable small businesses, jobs, and eventually new storefronts along Eastern Boulevard. This project is already underway, and FY 2027 capital funding is the critical next step for further build-out, equipment, and completion. With your support, we won't just renovate a building, but we will restore pride, increase vibrancy along the boulevard, and create lasting economic opportunity for Eastern Baltimore County. For the record, I have provided some written testimony with information on some of the businesses that will benefit from the shared commercial kitchen, and also letters of support from our many partners. And I have with me today Cynthia Gamboa Gomez, who is a friend, and she is a small business owner who will benefit from use of the shared commercial kitchen.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Cynthia Gamboa Gomez. I'm a local entrepreneur. I just moved here 9 months ago to United States. When I'm not a staff of the Essex Community Development Corporation, and I'm very active participant of the community they foster. I'm here today to speak on favor of the Essex Shared Commercial Kitchen, because I'm exactly the type of the entrepreneur this project is designed to help. I represent the next generation of the Maryland businesses. I'm working to bring delicious Costa Rican coffee, traditional connection of my culture, a supplementary pastry made from my family's recipe to the local markets. These aren't just recipes, they are my heritage. But to share they safely, I need to escalate this across Maryland. I need more than a home stove. I need a licensed professional space. This is not just a dream. I need to document this as a business. A small business like mine, are the engine of the economy. When we talk about Maryland economy, we're talking like 99.5% all these businesses in our states are small. We're not just a segment, we're the market. We're just the bedrock of Maryland commerce. When we invest in this kitchen, you are investing in the very foundation that keeps this state, our state, economy standing. This facility will allow me to escalate my business without the depth of the private commercial building out. It will allow me to hire my neighbors and contribute to the $1.2 million Marylanders currently employed to small businesses. I want to build my future here. I just need the infrastructure to do it. I urge you to support the DHC capital budget to vital this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gomez. Secretary Day should take you everywhere he goes. Just saying. Take a note, Ms. Secretary. All right. Great to see you all. Thank you for your time. Oh, any questions for the panel? Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to call up China Diaz, William Moore, Thomas Aide, and Claudia Wilson-Randall.
Chair and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is China Diaz, and I serve as the Director of Home Preservation at Habitat for Humanity Metro Maryland. We respectfully urge for your support for DHCD's capital budget. For over 44 years, Habitat has built and preserved affordable home ownership opportunities for low and moderate income families. Through our home preservation programs, we help older adults, working families, and longtime residents remain safely in their homes by addressing critical repairs, accessibility modifications, and climate resiliency improvements. To date, we've invested more than $12 million in home preservation across Prince George's and Montgomery counties. But behind these numbers are real families. A story that comes to mind is a mother who had 2 children who had disabilities, and she'd come to us after her heating system had failed in the winter. She couldn't afford a replacement, and her family faced the unsafe living conditions of having no heat in 20-degree weather. Through capital support, we're able to replace the HVAC system and restore safe heating to the home. That's the direct impact of capital funding. We're proud to be selected as an awardee for the NED funds. The capital funding through NED allows us to complete substantial repairs like roof replacements, HVAC upgrades, and electric corrections that preserve safe and stable home ownership. Capital funding strengthens Maryland's home infrastructure. It preserves affordability, prevents displacement, and protects the health and safety of the residents. The need continues to grow. We've received more than 4,500 inquiries across Prince George's and Montgomery counties for homeowners seeking major repairs. We respectfully ask that you maintain full funding for DHCD's capital budget, including net awards, so that we can continue protecting Maryland homeowners and strengthening the communities that we serve. Thank you for your consideration.
Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Tom Aide. I'm the CEO of Green Street Housing, a Maryland-based affordable housing developer, and I serve as the president of the board of directors for the Maryland Affordable Housing Coalition. I'm here today to urge this committee to provide level funding for Rental Housing Works program in the DHCD budget. Right now, Green Street Housing alone has 6 projects in our active pipeline that depend on Rental Housing Works financing to close. These projects span 5 counties: Anne Arundel, Prince George's, Dorchester, St. Mary's, and Caroline. Together, they represent 434 units of affordable housing and a combined total development cost of $169 million. The Rental Housing Works financing committed that would be put into these projects totals only $19 million. That $19 million is not a gift. It's the critical gap financing that makes the rest of the capital stack work. Without it, the tax credit equity cannot be placed, construction loans cannot close, and these projects do not get built, period. These 434 families are counting on these homes. Some are in urban centers, some are on the Eastern Shore, some in Southern Maryland. This is a statewide program delivering statewide impact. Cutting the rental housing works does not save money. It strands hundreds of millions of dollars in leveraged investment and leaves working families without housing. Please fund rental housing works at no less than prior year's levels. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and committee members. My name is Willie Moore. I'm president of Southway Builders, a Baltimore City-based general contractor who's been building affordable housing since our inception in 1991. I'm also here as a member of the board of Maryland Affordable Housing Coalition to request respectfully that, as Mr. Aide had said, level funding for rental housing works at $85 million instead of the proposed $65 million. 2 years ago, that funding was $110 million, was reduced down to 85 and down again to 65. And these rental housing works monies, which are a loan that is paid back to the state, are a critical economic engine for the state's overall economy. I believe it's fairly well known that the state right now needs between 100,000 to 130,000 affordable housing units to be able to grow our economy. I think you heard the Secretary mention that last year DHCD had done about 4,000 units. And at that current pace, it'll take us between 25 to 32 years just to build out what we need today. This rental housing works money is critical. So I guess some other points that I just wanted to make is that costs have increased dramatically since COVID. Construction costs have gone up almost 40%. If you were thinking that there was any relief from the Supreme Court ruling about construction costs because of materials and less tariff impact, actually steel, aluminum, and copper were not part of the IEEPA Supreme Court ruling, so they still have between 20 and 50% tariffs on them. Those cost increases and a decrease in rental housing works means that we're getting less affordable housing done. So I really appreciate 85 million or more. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Capital Budget Subcommittee. My name is Claudia Wilson-Randall. I'm the Executive Director of the Community Development Network of Maryland. And I'm here today to speak in strong support of the Department of Housing and Community Development's capital budget and their capital budget process. CDN is an intermediary working to promote the impact and value of the community economic development throughout Maryland. Nearly all of our members receive some support from the Department of Housing and Community Development, and the majority receive some capital support. Programs provide a critical complement to the low-income housing tax credit awards. Bernie and Ned provide critical support for housing, single-family development, community centers, and many of the programs that my colleagues have discussed previously. The most important thing that you should know about the projects funded by the capital budget is that they are vital to the people served that I represent. These are the folks that are on the front line of the communities. I want to just echo what Willie Moore just said. I made my own recommendations for funding and think that we need to be at $100 million for rental housing program. So it's not the same $85 million that Willie Moore just talked about, but we need to go higher. And I think our state, I mean, we're in a, I'm not naive, we're in a budget crisis, a serious budget crisis. But we have to aim high. Maryland is one of the 3 richest states in the country, and we're going to have to do some things that we've never done before. That includes investing in ways that we haven't invested, taking risks to up the production of affordable housing by 5-fold. And I also just want to say that the organizations that I represent and that take part in DHCD programs, these are the programs that Maryland's citizens rely on for hope and economic growth, which our state desperately needs. So with that, I thank you so much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Any questions for this panel? Great, thank you very much. We'll call up Ms. Jondre Jennings, Kurt Sommer, and Ashley Wallace, and Mary Claire Davis.
I'm fine. Good to see you.
Good to see you. It's like a reunion. Good afternoon, Chair Zucker and members of the subcommittee. My name is Mary Claire Davis, and I'm Vice President of Real Estate Development for AHC, also known as Affordable Homes and Communities. AHC is a nonprofit housing developer active throughout the region for the last 50 years and active in Maryland for 25 years. Our goal is to preserve and create safe, healthy, and affordable homes for families, seniors, and persons with disabilities. I am here today to support the DHCD capital budget as proposed mostly, but to ask to restore the $20 million cut from the rental housing works and rental housing programs. Creating quality housing and also keeping rents restricted and more affordable requires gap funding. These programs have been crucial in filling those gaps and making them feasible. My organization has used either RHW or RHP to support the construction and preservation of nearly 500 affordable rental homes, and our near-term pipeline includes at least 500 additional homes that could use this funding source to get to the closing table. For example, last year we opened a brand new community in Montgomery County that included 168 new homes, affordable to a range of incomes, including very low incomes, that also included larger family-sized homes, like 4 bedrooms, which are so needed in Maryland to keep families thriving and staying here in our state. Without the support of Maryland DHCD, in a time of increased costs and a challenging financing environment, that project would have been impossible. We ask that there be at least as many rental housing resources as last year for the coming year, so we can close several developments where we have site control and active applications, and also our housing colleagues across the state do as well. Together, our affordable housing community in Maryland is committed, spending pre-development dollars and moving with haste to meet our state's incredible need for housing. Thank you for this consideration in challenging times. We are ready to continue our partnership to solve the housing crisis and grow our state.
Chair Zucker, Vice Chair McCray, and members of the committee. My name is Kurt Sommer. I'm Executive Director of the West Baltimore Renaissance Foundation. We're a 501c3 affiliated with LifeBridge Health. My work focuses on the social determinants of health, those factors that are upstream that impact some of the clinical challenges my colleagues see in the hospitals at Sinai and at Grace Medical Center. Our work focuses in some pretty challenging West Baltimore communities with socioeconomic challenges that are unfounded in some places. More than a third of the properties in many of the neighborhoods are vacant and abandoned. And DHCD's budget, which I'm here to favorably support, is the one that can make strategic inroads into these challenges. They work closely with community leaders. They work closely with community development organizations, more than a dozen that serve the neighborhoods, to thoughtfully analyze potential projects that are coming in for consideration. They look at the strategic location of the projects. They look at the market conditions. They look at the capacity of the organizations to take consideration as to the value of the investment that they make. So the work that they lead impacts not just the community conditions on the physical side, but these physical conditions, the high socioeconomic challenges, are the same ones that drive healthcare impacts that my colleagues see every day. Heart disease, lack of access to healthy food, diabetes, high blood pressure, mental health, behavioral health needs. And so I really want to just leave the point that their budget is not just about physical conditions. It impacts the health of our cities, our neighbors, our residents across the state. So thank you very much for your time today and for supporting their budget. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions for this panel? Great, thank you very much. I'm just going to do another call for Jondre Jennings and Ashley Wallace, seeing them. Miranda Willems, Patrick Stewart, and Stephanie Archer-Smith. Come on up. Welcome. Thank you for your patience. Start whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Stephanie Archer-Smith, and I serve as Executive Director and CEO of Meals on Wheels of Central Maryland. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today in support of DHCD's budget and your continued commitment to capital investments that strengthen Maryland's communities. Meals on Wheels of Central Maryland delivers more than 5,000 meals each day, over 1 million meals annually, to older adults and individuals with disabilities throughout Central Maryland. These meals, coupled with an array of support services, including home repairs and safety modifications, ensure that Marylanders can remain safe and independent at home. This reduces more costly institutional care and saves precious healthcare dollars while also supporting community stability. Our new building project, included in this budget, is both essential infrastructure and community redevelopment. As Maryland's aging population continues to grow, the demand for our service is rapidly increasing. After 35 years in our current facility, we must relocate to prepare for the future. The project, the first in Meals on Wheels' 65-year history, will expand production capability, improve operational efficiency, and ensure scalable service delivery for decades to come. Our new facility will also be constructed on a parcel that has remained vacant for decades, directly adjacent to the Edmondson Village Shopping Center. It represents the productive reuse of underutilized land and adds a permanent anchor institution within this important commercial corridor. Each day, more than 150 employees, volunteers, and partners will operate from this location, directly supporting small businesses and strengthening the long-term viability of the shopping center. This project is shovel-ready and supported by strong organizational leadership and a public-private funding strategy. State participation will leverage private investment, accelerate redevelopment of a long vacant site, and strengthen the economic vitality of Edmondson Village. We respectfully request your support of DHCD's capital budget and this important investment in Maryland's communities. Thank you for your consideration.
Good afternoon. Chair Zucker, Vice Chair McCray, members of the committee. My name is Patrick Stewart. I'm with Penrose. We're an affordable housing developer and manager. I'm also a member of the Board of Directors of Maryland Affordable Housing Coalition. I should also say thank you for your patience. I'm here to speak in support of DHCD's capital budget requests and specifically increasing funding for rental housing works and level funding of RHP and the other DHCD funding programs. In terms of raw numbers, rental housing works in particular, the impact is clear. Over the 14-year history of the program, it has created or preserved nearly 20,000 units of affordable housing. It's leveraged over $5 billion in total investments based on investments in loan financing of just $450 million and supported nearly 40,000 jobs in the process. I think the leverage equation is worth sort of dwelling on. So every $1 of rental housing works leverages $11 of other total investments. If you think about the budget request, $65 million, increasing that to $85 million, that $20 million leverages total investments of $220 million in the state of Maryland. If we increase it by $50 million, piggybacking on my colleague Claudia's comments, that leverages total investments of over $500 million in the state of Maryland in 1 year. That's the kind of impact we're talking about that has spin-off impacts in terms of tax revenue, job creation, putting roofs over people's heads, attracting people to Maryland. That's the kind of impact we're talking about. Beyond the numbers, there's also an enormous impact by these programs in neighborhoods and communities, and many of which in affordable housing development is the most significant public or private investment they have received in decades. In our experience, in communities like West Baltimore, where Penrose and our partners have utilized DHCD's RHW and RHP programs to bring 150 brand new affordable apartment homes directly across the street from Edmondson Village Shopping Center as part of the Uplands revitalization, and in other communities. And so I'm going to stop there, but talking about impact and leverage, again, these are not just real estate developments, they're catalysts for positive change in communities, none of which would have been possible without these programs. Urge you to increase RHW back up to $85 million and maintain level funding. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Good afternoon, Chair Zucker, Vice Chair McCray, and members of the subcommittee. My name is Miranda Darden-Willems, and I'm the Executive Director of the Maryland Affordable Housing Coalition, representing 185 member organizations that use DHCD financing to build, own, and manage affordable rental housing communities across Maryland. I will keep this brief. You've already heard the statistics. You know we have a housing crisis and need to build at least 130,000 more housing units for low-income Marylanders. The governor says more housing is a priority. The comptroller warns that we need more housing to keep people from moving out of the state and to boost our economy. The legislature says more housing is a priority, but we cannot build more affordable housing without more resources from the state. The rental housing program's budget has been reduced the last 2 years. As you've already heard, we went from $110 million to this year we're at proposed $65 million. The only way more affordable housing units get built is with multiple layers of financing. That includes federal tax credits, private funds, and state and local funds. The state funds are especially important to fill the funding gaps not covered by private loans. A $20 million cut down to $65 million next year means that at least 6 projects will have to wait another year to get funded. And there are 75 projects lined up waiting for funding right now. We know funds are scarce. We know there are many important priorities that all need more funding, but this program is a solid investment of state dollars. Funding the DHCD rental housing program's budget at no less than last year's funding levels will allow us to continue our important work of building more affordable rental housing units and help solve our current housing crisis and improve Maryland's economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for this panel? Senator Quarterman.
Thanks, Chairman. Ms. Smith, it's been some time since our paths have crossed, so I just wanted to thank you for your advocacy and thank you for being here today and all the great work that you and your family do in the community. So thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Secretary Day, is that Assistant Secretary Gilbert right behind you?
It is.
I heard that the subcommittee just wants to salute you for your 19 years plus of state service and although you were hiding right there, all your work has been seen. So thank you for everything you've done and for not only the agency but the state. And we just wanted to take this time to say thank you. So with that, that finishes our capital budget hearings today. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.